Hello, everyone. Welcome on this gray and rainy day. Thank you for joining us and thank you for being flexible enough to join us online versus in person. We just wanted to make sure everybody was safe and didn't need to travel if they didn't have to. So I'm going to introduce myself. Hi, everybody. My name is Maggie Thatch-Morshed. I work at Oasis with Leslie. I'm in charge of anything writing. So all the programming we have that's connected to writing, whether that be for your class assignment or your or for scholarships or personal statements. Those are things that that I can help with, as well as the tutors that are in our program. So um, before we get started, so we have a small intimate group, which is great. I kind of prefer smaller groups because um, I can make it kind of specific to you. So I want to just put the question out there. First of all, what year are you all in? And what do you know about cover letters? That will really help me make sure that the presentation is really geared toward your understanding. So if you could put on the chat, or if you're happy to come off the mic, please share your year and what do you know about cover letters so far? Great. I'm gonna check out the chat. Second year, a letter explaining to a company why you want to join. Okay, great. Others, are you also a second year as well? Leslie, everybody should be a second year, right?
Yeah, most people joining us should be.
Okay, cool. We've learned that job applicants' right to provide a brief introduction of themselves and their qualifications for the position they are applying for. Great. Maybe just have a couple more. Tell me what is your understanding of a cover letter? So also let me pose this question to you all. Are you in the boat of you're not quite sure what to include in a cover letter? Is that something that you have kind of grappled with? Cover letters, opportunity to explain things about yourself that are highlighted in your resume. Great. Yep, exactly. Okay. And I know someone's just joined us. We have another one in the waiting room. So just to catch everybody up, we're just kind of getting acquainted and also understanding what everybody's like understanding of what a cover letter is. That will help me make the presentation a little bit more applicable to you. So this is great. You all have a really good foundational understanding of what cover letters are. What we're going to be discussing in today's workshop is how to approach a cover letter, how to think about a cover letter, because I think where a lot of students have trouble is like, what do you share in a resume and what do you share in a cover letter, and how are those two things different? Because here's the reality of it. When you apply for a job, um, you always you you always have to submit a resume, and sometimes it's optional to do a cover letter, but it'll never be the other way around. You'll never do a cover letter and not a resume, right? So how that should make you think about the job is like, or a cover letter is supplementary. It's secondary, right? So it always is like an addition, not the main thing. So we should keep that in mind when writing cover letters. Also, cover letters are an opportunity um, to make your case even stronger for the job you're applying for, right? Because a lot of times cover letters are optional. And I think some people are like, ooh, I'd rather not write a cover letter. So they're just like, oh, I'm just going to send my resume. But I really see that as a missed opportunity. So I want to give you tools to approach a cover letter so you feel confident and not be like, oh, I'm not good at writing, so I just won't send in an optional cover letter. Okay, so when we think about cover letters, we have to think of it as a package. You would never send in just a cover letter. It's always going to accompany a resume. So I did a resume workshop for 2IE last quarter. We're just gonna skim through it really quick because it's important to know what you need to know for a resume so that you can be more effective with the cover letter. Okay, so a resume. What is a resume? So, a resume is a quick way for employers to know who you are and see if you have the skills and experiences that they need. So, I know a lot of times people think, oh, a resume is like basically a brag sheet. Like, here's everything I did. But that's kind of, you're expecting the employer to do a lot if you put everything you've ever done on a resume. You know why? Because they only care what your skills are particular to their job or their company. So if you're putting everything on a resume, you're making them do more work. You're making them like pick out the things that are relevant to them, right? So it's really useful actually to think of a resume as like, what are my relevant experiences for the job that you're applying for? Okay, so again, a resume, at least like coming out of college, should only be one page. It shouldn't be more than one page. So that's why in here I say it's a quick way for employers to know who you are and see if you have the skills and experience that you need. So, what do you need a resume to do? You need a resume to emphasize your strengths and highlight the relevant aspects of your job history for that particular role. I'm just interested here, like kind of what kind of advice have you received about resumes so far? Could you all just put that in the chat? What kind of advice have you received about resumes so far? Are there questions about resumes that you're like, oh, I'm not so sure about this? Again, it's important to know, like, it's important to have a foundational understanding of resumes, and then cover letters will make more sense. So, could people put on the chat, or if they just want to say it aloud, what is advice you've received about resumes before, or what's confusing about advice you've received from resumes before? Keeping the resume brief, stick to one page. Okay, this is great. You're like, okay, I'm not sure if this is something everyone expects though. I say yeah, especially just coming out of college for now. It always depends. Like I never want to say like I know I'm like the authority on resumes and absolutely I know everything there is to know about resumes. But generally, when you're just coming out of college, your goal um, is to show what you've done that can contribute to the company. And usually, if you are just graduating college, that's not going to exceed one page. So that's why you really need to be creative with how you format your resume. I think that's really important. How you order information on a resume, um, resume highlights achievement. Emily, tell me more. What do you mean by this? Resume highlights achievements. Oh, I see. You're saying like, is it supposed to highlight achievements? Direct and start with action verbs when explaining the roles you did in job internship. Yep, I've heard that you can include study abroad experiences in resumes, but I'm not entirely sure if that's true. These are all great. Thank you for this. The bullet points for your experience should be short and an active voice rather than passive. Yes. Okay, this is all great. Yes, a lot of times students don't have work experience, like they don't have a job. They might have like mentoring experience, right? Or like volunteer experience, or like somebody mentioned it, study abroad experiences. I think that's absolutely okay to put on a resume, because employers understand that recent grads don't just have work experience. Maybe you worked in a lab, you volunteered in a lab for 3 weeks, and it was a short time, but you learned a lot from it. So again, it kind of goes back to relevancy, like relevant aspects. Depends on what you're applying to. Like, say you're applying to be a lab assistant and you had a 3 week experience working in a lab, absolutely put that on. It doesn't, just because it wasn't like an actual job doesn't mean you shouldn't put it on there. So these are all great questions. I think it's all like, if it's an experience that gave you some insight into that field, it made you see the world in a certain way, it changed your perspective on something, I think it absolutely could go on a resume, especially as you're coming out of college, right? Like, as you move on in your career, it's expected that you have more work experience. So work experience should be more highlighted on your resume. But definitely coming out of college, I think all those experiences that you're talking about makes a lot of sense. Okay. So again, we're gonna just go a quick review of resume, and then we'll go into cover letters. So a lot of times, like where resumes go wrong is that it's too general and there's too many job experiences or entries in the resume that are unrelated to the job that you're applying for. For instance, my first job was at Dairy Queen. I worked at Dairy Queen. That was my very first job. And when I was applying to the current job I have now, that was not on my resume because it was irrelevant to what I'm doing now, which is academic support, student services, right? So it was my job to like look at what in my experiences are relevant to the current job I'm applying for. And I think that's why, like a lot of students get the advice like, oh, tailor your resume to the position, but they don't really know what that means. What does it mean to tailor your resume? What it means is actually look at the job that you're applying for and make your resume fit that job, right? Um, Not providing enough detail, describing job duties instead of highlighting professional accomplishments, and using the same resume for every job. Like I said, if you're using the same resume for every job, you're not doing the work of tailoring the resume. And that is so important. So important to like capturing that person's attention for if you're actually capable to do the job. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick example of what it means to tailor your resume. So let's say that you want to apply to this job. This is a very general, entry level type of job. Let me put the PDF in the chat and then we could all just look at it together, okay? So give me just a second. Okay, go ahead and open that up and let's take a look at it together. Okay, just want to make sure everybody can access that PDF. Were you able to access it? Thumbs up if you can. Okay, great. So let me explain a couple of things. I feel like when people apply to jobs, they kind of skip over this part and they just go straight to the minimum qualifications. And then they read the first part like demonstrated coursework and our experience in political science, sociology, child development, or other related areas. They see that and they're like, oh, that's not me. I'm not going to apply to this job. What I'm saying is don't look at the minimum qualifications first. Look at the job description first, because I feel sometimes like all of us here, I don't know, I'm assuming, but maybe we've all experienced that type of imposter syndrome. Like, oh, should I apply for this job? I'm not good enough. And when you just go toward that minimum qualification, you kind of take yourself out of the game. You know what I mean? Don't do that. Look at the job description. Base your decision on whether you apply or not on the job description. Okay. So these are the things that you're going to look for. Um, First, I just want you to look for adjectives. So adjectives are descriptor words, right? So look for adjectives in here. What types of adjectives are here? Put it in the chat when you're done. Like, find all the adjectives in the description. So I'm just talking about everything above minimum qualifications. Great. Samina, thank you so much. Okay, we have passionate, highly motivated, hardworking. So already, just from the adjectives, you're kind of getting a vision of what kind of person they want, right? Okay, perfect. So let's move on. Let's look at their job tasks and responsibilities. What are the job tasks and responsibilities of this particular job. Like, what are they doing? Okay, so as we're looking through the job descriptions, um, we want to see, okay, what is this role actually do? And so, Catalina, great, thank you for putting it in. Meet bi-monthly, plan projects, engage in leadership. Do you notice all the verbs in there? Plan, engage, meet. So already think about like, okay, in my bullet points underneath each of the work experience, um, mirror back these verbs like engage, plan, meet, or you can say, like you can use synonyms. You can write like um, coordinate. You can write uh, um, decorate. I don't know, that's not a bad one. Don't take up one, but do you know what I mean? Like engage. You can write outreach. You can write these things, right? So what I'm trying to get you to see is when you look at a job description, break it down into the adjectives and the verbs. The adjectives show you what kind of person they're looking for, right? Passionate, highly motivated, hardworking. And then if you break down like what are the responsibilities, meet, plan, engage, use those words in your resume. So when they look at your resume, they're like, oh, okay, this fits really well into the job description. That's great. Okay, now next thing, let's look at the other people that this position interacts with. Who are the other people that are involved in this job? Who like this job is not a job that you do totally on your own, right? You're dealing with other people. Who are those other people? Okay, I know new people have joined us, so just to catch you up, we are um, we are breaking down this job description. You'll see the job description PDF in the chat, so go ahead and open that up. These bullet points are the things that we're looking for. So we just went through adjectives, we just went through the responsibilities, and now we're looking at like the other people in this role. So great, thanks, Catalina. So you're under the supervision of a program manager, right? What else are you who else are you interacting with in this role? Who else is this role interacting with? Other youth leaders, great. Other youth leaders, youth, all of these things, right? Also like um, young people experience dual roles in these activities, both as expert trainers, facilitators, and participants. So other youth leaders, youth, participants, great. And then the last thing, I don't think it's as important as the first three, but it's like specific skills of this job, right? For the purposes of time, we're just going to move on because we did the most important three things, right? So seeing like the adjectives, what kind of person they're looking for, seeing the roles of the job, and then the people that they interact with. So when you have broken it down, then you can apply that to the resume, right? So that's how you tailor your resume for a specific job. You want to mirror back what the job description says. So um, these are things to consider for a resume, right? Like what are the things that you should put in the bullet points? Another thing to keep in mind is like if you can use a star method. So that's like describe a situation, a task, an action, or result, um, or briefly describe the project, describe the results, quantify if possible. Those are nice, but I don't think that's like the meat of it. The meat of it is, okay, what experiences have you had that you can put in there that reflect the job description? So if we're thinking about like the resume and letter working as a package. So now you know what goes into your resume, right? So say your resume are the verbs thing, right? Like it reflects all the verbs in that particular job. And then you know that they're looking for a passionate, hardworking person. So that's what you want to reflect in your cover letter. Right. So this is why I wanted to do this activity with you. You were probably like, why are we talking about resumes when this thing is about cover letters? Because they work together. And if you understand what the purpose of a resume is, then the cover letter becomes clearer, right? So whatever that you're representing in your resume, remember that whatever you're representing in your cover letter is an addition to that, not a repeat. So that's where cover letters go wrong, right? So a cover letter is a supplementary piece of text that gives more dimension to you as a candidate. So the resume kind of like the outline of you as a candidate, but I feel like the cover letter is what gives the details. You know, like if you think of it, this is kind of a weird analogy, but it works. Just roll with me. Resume kind of gives you like the skeleton of a candidate, right? And the cover letter can give like the definition, the flesh of it, right? So these things work together, but don't make it do the same exact job. So what you need a cover letter to do is reveal something about you that's not in your resume, and it's a convincing argument about why you have the right combination of skills, experience, and or passion. Okay, so let's think. Okay, so I always like to talk about where cover letters go wrong so that we can make sure that they go right. So a lot of times where cover letters go wrong, it gives the same information as in the resume. So the resume is like bullet points, and then the cover letter is the same information but in sentence form. So don't do this. Okay. So know what type of information you're relaying in your resume, and then look at the job description. It's like, what else didn't I like? I wasn't able to put hardworking and passionate in my resume. So those are the things that I'm going to talk about in the cover letter. In the cover letter is also the opportunity to show that you understand your skills line up with the job or the role or the company, right? Again, if you're just sending the same cover letter out to multiple places, you're like, oh yeah, it'll do, because it's just like, this is where I see a lot of cover letters. They're like, dear dear employer, I really hope to get this job. I think I have the skills to get it. Please let me know if you need references. Sincerely, Maggie. That's all the cover letter is. If that's all the cover letter is, then it's a missed opportunity, right? It's too vague. It doesn't show what skills you have or experiences you have that line up with the company. It's basically a throwaway, right? Because it's just basically like, oh, I really want this job. Look at the cover letter as an opportunity to make your case that you're the right person for the job. Okay, so these are the questions that you can keep in mind when putting together your cover letter. What can you accomplish in the cover letter that you haven't yet in the resume? How does your previous experience add value to the company? And why do you want to work there? Right? So I want us to do like a little activity that might help us get in the right mind frame of putting together a successful cover letter. Okay. So um, we've talked about this, do research on the position, brainstorm all your relevant experience, draft a cohesive argument. Okay, here it is. So this is a list that I gathered. These are like the 17 top adjectives that companies look for. I got this off of LinkedIn, right? These are the things they want to see in employees, that you're motivated, that you're hungry, that you're humble, whatever it is, right? These are the top 17. So let's take a second right now. Everybody gets a writing utensil. I want you to pick 3 of these. What 3 of these adjectives describes you as a possible employee? Okay, so let's take the next. I want you to really reflect on it, not just pick like the first 3 that pop out at you, but like what what 3 really represent you? Okay. So right now it's 2:27. Let's do that until 2:30. Okay. I'll turn off my camera and then when I come back on, that's when we can talk about it. All right? Sound good? Okay. Okay. I know that was a short time, but hopefully enough to like really think about these three adjectives. So, um, if you feel comfortable, can you put it in the chat what your three are? So I invite Ide, Stephanie, and Leslie to also put their three adjectives in the chat as well. Tiffany, I will definitely address this. Awesome. Thank you all. Okay. So I just want Tiffany brings up a really good point. Like, okay, how do people say they're humble? Because it seems like that defeats the purpose. I think it's really useful to say, maybe I should have said this before our activity, but these adjectives are in the context of professionalism, right? I think this is a good time in your college career to also think about that as well. Like let's craft your professional persona. Your professional persona isn't exactly you 100%, right? Like I think in real life, I'm creative, dependable, and dedicated. But in the context of a professional life, I would say that I'm motivated, persistent, and hungry. You know what I mean? Like this these adjectives are in relation to what it means as a professional. So when Tiffany asked, like, why do people say they're humble? That sounds like it defeats the purpose. I think humble in the context of professionalism is like being able to take criticism, being able to hear, like, oh, that was the wrong way to do something. This is the right way to do something. And being humble is like, oh, I understand. I see what you're saying. Okay, I'm going to do research on that and make sure I do it the right way. That's what I think humble means in this context. So I wanted us to do this activity because I want us to start thinking about ourselves as like that professional persona, right? What adjectives best describe your professional persona? So I have a lot of like, thank you all for putting it in. So here's the next step of this activity is like, what what story are you weaving about yourself with the three in particular that you chose? So I'm going to start with Stephanie because she was my first one who put adjectives in here. So loyal, committed, and dependable. So for you, Steph, what is like that story you're trying to create yourself for yourself using these three adjectives?
I noticed that when I type them down, they all are fairly similar in some way or another. And I want hopefully employers to know that they can rely on me, whether if it's a new project or something that I consider myself an expert on. So hopefully those three words, and even again with myself just typing them out, um, I want them to know that I got this and
Yeah.
they can rely on me in every aspect, whether it's like to lead a group project or lead an event or meetings and whatnot.
Yeah, awesome. And like it really parlays well with that example job description that we looked at together, right? So this is why I really want us to like be intentional with like the story that you're weaving in your cover letter. That's the opportunity that the cover letter gives you that the resume doesn't, right? The cover letter gives you the opportunity to weave a story about yourself. So even in just that job description, I would look at Stephanie using these adjectives as really aligned with that particular job description. It talked about passionate, you're working with kids, you're working under a program manager. So really think about that alignment, right? I'm going to move to the next person, Emily. Can you tell, if you're comfortable, can you tell me a little bit about like why you chose committed, loyal, and accountable? And what do you think that says about, what's the story that that says about you by picking those three adjectives? Emily, are you there? Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next person, the next three. How about Catalina? Would you mind sharing what is the story you want to weave with these three adjectives? Motivated, dedicated, committed. Okay, great. They can count on me to be there every step of the way, help make a difference through my knowledge and experience. Okay, great. Like almost very similar to Stephanie, right? Um, Tiffany, can you talk a little bit or put in a chat about why you chose integrity, creative, and dependable? What are the things that you hope an employer understands about you as a potential employee from these three adjectives? Okay, that they can count on me to come up with creative solutions if needed, in a way that doesn't compromise quality and integrity of the work. Okay, awesome. Okay, Also, Tiffany, did I answer your question about like how somebody would say that they're humble when it feels like kind of like it defeats the purpose of actually being humble? Okay, great. Yeah, so what I want you to take out of this activity is like the cover letter gives you that opportunity to create a narrative about yourself and being very intentional about your narrative, right? Because all of these adjectives are good, right? They're all good, but it's like you create um an image of yourself with the three specific that you choose or the ones that you choose to focus on, and that's what you can bring into a cover letter. Okay, so thank you for doing that activity with me. So, oh, sorry. Okay. So again, being super intentional with the cover letter by doing research on the job description, being very intentional about how your skills fit that job description, and being very selective of what you choose to share about yourself. Those are the things that's the mindset I want you to have when you start a cover letter. And that's how a cover letter can really complement the resume. Like I said, a cover letter sometimes is additional, or I'm sorry, optional, right? Not every job requires a cover letter, but if it does, this is the way that you can go into writing a cover letter so that you feel super confident that it is going to add to it and not just be like a filler, like, oh, my name is Maggie. I really like this job. Let me know if you want my references, right? Like that's just a filler. Like that's not saying anything about you, but being super intentional about the story that you're telling about your professional self, that's when you know you have a really convincing cover letter on your hands. Um, the next thing I want to talk about is like how to structure it. I feel like when it comes to a cover letter, there's four components that you should be thinking about, right? First is you, like what are your values? What are your interests? What are your motivations? The other thing is your experiences, like what specific experience did you have that's relevant for you to talk about for your role? So again, that's not something a resume can do, right? A resume can't go into the story that, oh, I worked with this student, this is how I helped them through this problem, but a cover letter can do that. The next component to think about is the position. So this is also a cover letter is also a really good, it's a good opportunity to show to the hiring manager that you understand the position. Do you know what I mean? Not just like my name's Maggie, I'm really qualified, I want this position. But if you can write in the cover letter, like, I understand position is about working with young adults, it's about collaboration, it's about being passionate. When you do those things, you show that hiring manager that you understand the position. And then finally, um, writing about their organization, like it's very good to show that you understand the purpose and mission of that organization, what challenges they face, and what their definition of success is. So these are components you should consider putting in your cover letter. So I know I'm throwing a lot at you. I'm like, do research, pick the right adjectives, think about what you're saying about yourself, then these components. What I hope that you take away is like, there's a way to be very intentional. It'd be very easy for me to sit here to be like, oh yeah, this is the formula for the best cover letter. Paragraph 1, write about this. Paragraph 2, write about this. Paragraph 3, write about this. But the reality is that it all changes depending on the role and the company, right? And honestly, where you are in your career. So I want to give you these different things to think about so that you can write the cover letter that fits the moment, right? That fits the opportunity. So when you're writing a cover letter, consider these four aspects. Like, are you revealing your values, your interests, your motivations? Are you going into the experiences that you have that align you well with a job? And then I think, writing about your understanding of the position and the organization tells the hiring manager that you have a good understanding. You know how the job fits into the company. You understand what your role is. Um, I think when a lot of people start their cover letter, they have like a very like kind of regimented structure. Like they talk about themselves, they talk about their experiences, they talk about the position, then they talk about the company. But I would suggest that you flip this. Like, talk about the company, like what you understand about the company, talk about how you understand the role, how it fits in the company, then talk about yourself. Because I think that when you show a hiring manager that you understand the role, that shows like a level of maturity and growth that I think a lot of people don't take advantage of, right? Okay, I just want to pause here. How is all of this resonating with you? Is it too much information? Do you have questions? Yeah, I just want to pause here to be like, how is all of this kind of landing with you? I'm also happy to hear from just Leslie and Stephanie just being like professionals for a while, just like how you're thinking differently about cover letters and how you used to think about cover letters and what you wish you knew before.
Funny you ask. I have a sister who is a second year right now at Cal State San Marcos, and she texted me a couple of weeks ago asking what's a cover letter. And I found myself having to Google it because it's one of those things that you can often forget and not think about unless a job is asking you for a cover letter. But I really appreciated you going in depth into what students should look for, not just like the surface page one requirements or not reading those keywords, but really breaking it down, like even this diagram right here, breaking it down to something that's a little bit more simplified for students to understand. And now you all know what a cover letter is. Now I know what a cover letter is. I mean, I think I knew about it. I just not thinking about it for years, not
Yeah.
applying to jobs for years. It's like one of those things that if you don't see, you don't think about, then you don't practice it. So thank you, Maggie.
I feel like this, I feel like cover letters is one of those things that just feels like an extra hoop to jump through, you know? Like, oh yeah, I got to send in the resume and then I just got to whip up a cover letter and send it through, you know? And this is where I'm like, think of it more as an opportunity. Like, sending in resumes is terrible, right? Like, you're setting yourself up to be rejected. That's what it feels like, right? Because you're just sending out resumes, you want to get a job. And it just, like I said, it feels like a hoop to jump through. But if we think about it as like, oh, I'm making my case, I know I'm a strong candidate for this job. I want to show them how thought out how well thought out I am, how intentional I am. And I feel like that cover letter does that. A lot of times recent grads, I think they feel like uncertain and insecure because they're like, oh, I don't have a lot of job experience. How do I get a job when I don't have job experience, right? This will help you. When a hiring manager reads like, oh, this resume is very intentional, oh, this cover letter is showing a lot of growth and a lot of maturity, those things count for a lot, right? And there are ways that you can show that without actually having the job yet. So I feel like this is why I want to work with like college students specifically on cover letters, because it's like, don't look at it as like, oh my gosh, I have to write a cover letter and just send it through, but like, oh, how can I make this really impactful? How can I be super intentional about this? So if we can go into a situation like, all right, here's the job description. Here's who they're looking for. They're looking for someone hardworking, passionate. Oh yeah, that's me. How can I show that to them? So this is why I wanted to show it to you, to like, what are your experiences? What's an experience that shows you're passionate? What's an experience that shows you're hardworking? How do you understand the position? You're like showing your level of understanding on multiple levels. And I think that gets your foot in the door. That will definitely make you stand out amongst a lot of people, right? Let me check out the chat. I struggle with the organization of a cover letter, particularly, and the distinction you made about framing yourself in a professional context was very helpful. Yeah, I think that's something too that people don't think about when they apply to jobs. Like, you're not like applying as yourself. You know what I mean? You're applying as a budding professional. So it's good to have that distinction of like, these are my most important characteristics as a professional. As a person, yeah, I'm creative, I'm this, but as a professional, I want to be seen as loyal, hardworking, committed, right? Ide, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that. I love how you're framing it, and for um, students to realize that it's an opportunity because, like you were saying, especially when there's positions where there's going to be a lot of applicants,
Mhm.
the one page resume can't possibly speak to the depth of like who you are in a way that maybe a letter can. And so I've been on hiring committees where there's been a lot of applicants, and if they didn't have a cover letter, I didn't even really bother, like, oh, this person's just not, they
Mhm.
didn't do that extra thing that I need to be able to see more in depth, like, is it a good match for us? And so it can be that big of a boost, and seeing it as an
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I really want to impart on students too. I've been a part of hiring panels as well, and that makes a difference. Like, oh, this person didn't put in the effort to add this extra thing. I think there's like a perception out there amongst like students now. They feel like it's just AI hiring people. They're just like, oh, what if I don't write the right words? And it's not like what am I thinking of? They're just like, oh, like, do I need to put the right word so that it is, screened or whatever? And it's like, there's not that many jobs that AI is doing the hiring. Like, for the most part, people are doing the hiring. Even if it's AI screening, people are making the decisions. So you want to make a connection to the person that's possibly reading your resume and cover letter, right? And like Ide said, yeah, that's the standard, a one page, right? Because you know what the implicit message of like 2 pages is? Like, if you have um a 2 page resume and you just graduated college, to me, when I look at that, like as somebody on a hiring panel, I'm like, what could they have possibly done that requires 2 pages of them telling me? They don't have that much experience, right? So that tells me actually that they don't know how to be concise, and they don't know how to pick what's relevant. So already I'm getting like implicit messages by the way they're presenting information, right? So that's kind of like the standard, a 1 page resume, right? So you want to meet that standard. But the cover letter, that's where you can, that's the opportunity for you to show the depths of you as a budding professional. Like Ide said, like, okay, here's what I can provide your company. Here's how I add value. That you can't possibly uh, encapsulate that in a resume. It's just not possible, right? But that cover letter is the opportunity, and if more people think of it like that rather than a hoop to jump through, then you feel more confident. I'm not saying that it guarantees you get the job. I never want to be that person like, this is how you write a cover letter. If you do this, you'll get the job. I can't make those guarantees, but I'm hoping that the skills I'm showing you helps you feel more confident, and that confidence is going to build, and you're going to know better. Like, you're going to feel better going into a job situation when you feel confident versus like, oh my gosh, I just applied to 100 jobs. I just want them to pick me. I don't want you to have that type of approach, right? It's like, no, I looked at this. I know I'd be good for this job. This job would be good for me. You know what I mean? It's mutual. And so many students, when they get out of school, they're just like, so like eager, like, I just need a job, I just need a job. But you know what, it goes both ways, because sometimes that eagerness for a job can lead you, this is another, this is a conversation topic for another day, but sometimes I feel that eagerness can lead to you being exploited at work, because you're like, I'm willing to do anything, right? I want you to have that confidence to be like, this is what I bring, this is what the company would gain by hiring me, like just knowing your worth going into the job market. And I think that starts with the resume and cover letter. Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox. Okay, so this will be super quick, but this kind of, I wanted to include this activity because it kind of talks about the imposter syndrome. So many people are like, I don't know if I have the skills. I don't know if I'm qualified. So we can just do this really quickly, okay? Um, think of a time that you helped solve when you solved or helped solve a problem, you can just think about this to yourself, okay? Think about a time where you helped solve a problem. Think about a time when you had to navigate a difficult situation. So this can mean anything, you know, like if you were an RA, if you are that one friend in the friend group, you help navigate difficult conversation. If you're a big sister like me and Stephanie, and you have to navigate a difficult situation. So think about that. Okay, the next one. A situation where you had to communicate with a diverse group of people. Okay. 3 more. When you had to manage your time carefully or keep detailed records. Okay, next, when you had to be a role model or set an example. Okay, last one. When you had to develop self-discipline or self-motivation. Okay. Okay, was everybody able to write or not write, but think of a situation where they did all of these things? Yes, give me a thumbs up. If you could think of a situation where you could talk about with every one of these things. Yes? Yes. Okay. Okay, so you have these experiences, right? So if you helped solve a problem, you got analytical skills. If you help navigate a difficult conversation, you have interpersonal skills. If you helped communicate with a diverse group of people, you have communication skills. You manage your time carefully, you have management skills. This is leadership skills. This is self-starter skills. So the point I'm trying to prove is that you have the experience, right? But sometimes in job descriptions, when it's like, oh, you have to have analytical skills and computer science, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, I don't have analytical skills, but you do. You do. So I just presented the information to you in a different way. I just had you think about analytical skills in a different way. So I want you to, whenever you feel that imposter syndrome come up, be like, no, actually, I do have analytical skills because I helped solve this problem. It wasn't in the context of a job, but that's okay because I'm a college student and I just don't have that experience in a job. But in my club, we had this problem. This is how I helped solve it. That's analytical skills, right? So I really want you to come away from this workshop feeling like, one, that imposter syndrome, you have the experience, and take ownership of those experiences so that you can have confidence in writing your resume and writing your cover letter. And I know it feels like I was kind of all over the place, but I felt like like the things I talked about with the cover letter wouldn't make sense if we didn't have a strong understanding of that resume, right? So we all move away knowing, okay, that resume is like, that's the thing to pass go, right? Everybody has to have a resume. But that cover letter, some people underestimate it, underestimate um, the ability of a cover letter to make you stand out. So I want you to look at it as an opportunity, and a way for you to set yourself apart from the crowd. Okay, so main takeaways: analyze the job description. Now you know how to do that. Look for adjectives. Adjectives show you what kind of person they're looking for. Look at the verbs. That's what you should put in your bullet points on your resume, right? Think about how your values, your experiences, the role in the organization, and how that can be brought together. And this is just a bonus. I know sometimes it's hard to like just sit down and write a cover letter. So this is what I tell a lot of students, like start a Google Doc. Kind of keep it as a professional journal, right? About your internship experience, right? About your volunteer experience, right? Whatever, right? Just kind of throw it in there. So when it comes time to write your cover letter, or even like you're thinking about grad school, personal statement, scholarship essay, you have this long list of material that you can write about. You know what I mean? Instead of like sitting there and thinking like, do I have any experiences worth writing about? Keeping track of these meaningful and impactful experiences will help you in the long run in helping put together like a good narrative, whatever that is. Cover letter, scholarship essay, personal statement. Thank you so much. It was really great being here. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you all. I'm also going to do a quick plug of our Oasis services. So say you're in that position where you are putting together a cover letter, you're not quite sure how to structure it, please use our services. So I'm going to show you our calendar. This is our calendar. Once you log in to our appointment making system, where's my chat? This is that's the website you go to make appointments. You make an account using your UCSD email. And then once you do that, you get access to our calendar. These are how many people are on shift. We're open every day, 10:30 to 6. What's nice is it's one-on-one. So you can talk through all of these things that we talked about today. If you're not sure who you work with, click on a white spot with their name. So I'm like, James. You click on it and then you see their bio come up. We really value language diversity, so you'll see like, oh, he's fluent in Mandarin, he knows a little bit of Japanese, he knows a little bit of French. Here's his bio. Then you fill out like what you're coming in for, and then you can make an appointment with us. I think sometimes talking out your ideas, talking about your writing is really helpful in the process. So please feel free to use our services. You can email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat. If you're just like, Maggie, I'm working on this, I'm not quite sure who to work with, I'm happy to make a suggestion for you as well. Oh, I wanted to plug this because Ide sent something about it. Is it the Cesar Chavez Scholarship essay contest, right? This is coming up. If any of you are thinking about it, please use our services to help you with the essay. Form a structure, get edits, get guidance. This is a really great place to get writing support. If you win first, second, and third place, $2,500. That is not chump change. So it's something to think about. If you're working on that, please consider using LATS services. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you so much. I'll stick around if there are any questions, but thank you so much for being here. I hope you all are staying safe and dry wherever you're at. Bye.
Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate your energy and learning about something we all know, but now are experts at.
Excellent. Perfect.
Thank you so much, Maggie.